Okay, the next step that you need to do for your bow headband is to make the actual bow. I've cheated a little bit. I went ahead and made it. But the reason for that is that it is exactly like what you've already done, with one change, and that is that you just don't have to knit as long. You still cast on the exact same way. You knit every row the exact same way. But in this case, I just like to knit it about half the length of the bow headband. So that's to say, after you've stitched it all together and it's laying flat like a pancake, the bow piece should be knit until it's just pretty much the exact same as the folded over headband. The only other thing I'll say about the bow is that generally I make the bow width the same as the headband width. So if you're making it for a little kiddo and you did 7 stitches on the headband instead of 9, I would typically do 7 stitches on the bow as well. The exception to that is when I'm feeling extra dramatic, and I occasionally, I'll show you here, make the bow 2 stitches wider. All that does is just kind of make it floppier and a little bit more dramatic. If you are extra, you might want a more dramatic bow. I like the way that they both look, so it's just personal preference. Obviously it'll take a little bit longer to knit if you choose to have it be wider. So anyway, if you need to rewatch the video for the headband to help you with the bow, that's perfectly fine. Just go back and watch everything again, do everything the same, except when you get to the width of half of the headband, bind off and secure your end by pulling it through itself. Okay, so the only other thing that we need to do before assembling is kind of finish off the bow piece. We're going to leave the tails on the headband piece for now. Just going to scoot it out of the way. But we do want to go ahead and hide these tails on the bow piece before we attach it. So this is where your darning needle comes in handy. If you don't have one, I do think you probably can do this. You could probably kind of work the yarn in with your fingers and maybe even use like a knitting needle to kind of help you. But darning needles aren't expensive. They are going to make it quite a bit easier, and you certainly can't get away with that one on projects with smaller stitches. So I'm hoping you're falling in love with knitting and you're going to spend the rest of your life knitting, and so you're going to want to invest in a darning needle. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You are going to thread your needle with one of the 2 end pieces. And what I like to do is, there's not really a front or back to this necessarily. I like to kind of look at both sides and see which side I think looks prettier. So I'm going to call this the front, so I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to hide these in the stitches of the back. So these are already pretty knotted. It's not really an issue of them coming undone, but you just, you don't want to cut it off right there. That knot's going to come undone and fray. So you just kind of want to hide a few inches. You don't want to go all the way through to the front or it'll show, so you just kind of tuck it in amongst the backs of some of these stitches. Pull it through. Okay, so I've hidden it in these kind of couple inches here. It doesn't need to look pretty because this is the back of your bow. And then I trim it. I kind of pull it, and it's pretty much hidden. This is not my forte in life. I really hate doing this, especially in projects that have a lot of these to hide, and so there's probably people that know how to do it better than I do. I should maybe listen to them on this. Alright, here we go. Other end. Just kind of tuck it in there. Pull it on through. Snip. Okay, and there you go. So now your bow is ready to attach. And I'll be back shortly.